together in this exciting exclusive video. I'm going to be making these two very precise squares from stainless steel. And the stainless steel that I'm using is a kick plate that I've had for years. I used to install doors and hardware, so I have a few of those left over from projects. And it's an excellent material for this. It's the right thickness, I think, and it will never rust, which is very important. And I did this 100% only with hand tools, a hacksaw, and a couple different files. So that makes it even more interesting, I think. To make accurate marks on here that I'll be able to see, I'm going to spray on a single coat of paint that I can actually scratch through to make the marks rather than using a pencil or a marker or something like that. So I gave the paint about 30 minutes to dry. It's still a little bit tacky, but that's not going to make any difference. In the end, I'll have to wash all of this off anyways, so it really doesn't matter if I get a few fingerprints in it right now. What I need to do, though, before I go any further, is make sure that my combination square is actually square. And I'm using a method that I made a video about a few years ago. On the first try, I can see that it's pretty close. I would say that this is close enough for woodworking, but it's definitely not close enough for what I want to do here. So in order to adjust it, I'm going to scrape a little bit off the aluminum on the inside using the ruler itself. This is the method I used before, and then try it again. And I'll keep doing this until the line lines up perfectly from both sides. So the kick plate itself is 6 inches wide, and using my newly squared square, on the end here, I can see that it's remarkably square. So I'm actually going to use that for my first square. And as you saw in the beginning, I made two sizes, and this first one is going to be 6 by 8. And I'll make that 1 inch wide. The smaller one will be 3 by 4, and I'll make that 3/4 of an inch wide. Yeah. I've got both marked out as accurately as I possibly can when I'm trying to film it. And now I'm going to go a little bit off book for me, because normally what I would use to cut this out is the angle grinder, getting it very close to the line and then finish it off with a file or even just the grinder itself. However, I'm going to try to cut it out with the hacksaw. Now this is stainless steel, but it's not a very hard grade. Okay, that went really good, actually. No problem at all cutting through that. This one's probably the most difficult one because it's the longest. So I'm stopping every once in a while and checking to see how close I am to the line. I don't want to cut up to the line, I want to leave a little bit and file down to it after. And with that said, I'll also say that I regret not letting the paint dry a little bit longer. All of the cuttings are sticking to it, and it's turning it into a bit of a nightmare here, and I can barely see that line. So anyway, that's that one cut free, but before I do anything else with that, I'm going to cut out the smaller one as well. So that's all the cutting done, and I was very tempted to take these and clean the paint off and repaint them, and then this time let the paint dry long enough, but I can still see the line on there, so I'm just going to go ahead and start filing them down. I'm using a fine cut file here, cutting on the forward stroke only. Tell me, do you like that sound? No, I don't like it either. So I'm going to try something here to see if I can minimize it a little bit anyway. I'm going to take this strip of wood and tape it right on my vise and put the piece right in the vise this time rather than those 2 blocks of wood, and see if this makes a difference. And I'm keeping an eye on that line to make sure that I don't go too far. Now while I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep the file square to the edge. When I get very close to the line, I'm taking it out and checking it very carefully, and I'll put it back in, take another couple strokes, and take it out and check it again. And I'm very close right now. I've got a little tiny bit of a dip here. So it's going to take a little bit more off either side, and I think it'll be perfect. So that's that one side done. And now I'm going to do the inside, and I'm going to start with the shorter blade. And this one, unfortunately, has a lot of material. I didn't cut right up close to the line on this one. So I'm going to switch to a heavier cutting file and remove the bulk of the material. And then exactly like the outside, I'm going to switch to the finer cut file and bring it right down to the line. And I'll check several times while I'm doing it to make sure it's good. I got very close at the square, probably as close as I need to be for woodworking, but I've got my calipers here just to check it and make adjustments as needed. The idea is I'll measure here, here, and here, and if they're equal, then at least these 2 are parallel. And that actually looks really good. I think it's like 1/1000th of an inch off, so I'm not going to worry about that. This one over here still needs a little bit more work. It's a little bit fat on the inside here. I think I have to take like 4/1000th of an inch off. I'll just put that back in the vise and file it down, and then check it again, and then file it some more if it needs it, and then check it again, and so on and so forth until it is perfect. And of course, there are no markings on these squares. I never use markings on squares anyway. These will mainly be used for drawing square lines or for checking to see if something is actually square. And so I really don't need any markings on here. So this one is nearly finished. All I need to do is clean the paint off, and I'm using lacquer thinner for that. And then I'll take a piece of sandpaper and clean up the faces a little bit. So that's the small one done and all cleaned up and looking very good. The advantage of the stainless steel, of course, is that it will not rust. So it'll continue to look good, unless I drop it on the floor and walk on it, that is. Now, the advantage of the bigger one is that this outside edge here is already square. So I only have to work on the inside and then the ends. Or actually, this end is square as well. Just this end up here needs to be cleaned up. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly do that. I'm not going to show all the steps because they are exactly the same as the ones that I already did for the smaller one, except the lengths here are a little bit different. And then once again, when I have it very close, I'll check it with the calipers and dial it in perfectly.